Hey YouTube, in the previous video we took a look at running Azure Functions from inside the portal. I put on a collared shirt today so that we could go inside of Visual Studio and do this the enterprise way, complete with debugging. That's right, we're going to install the Azure Functions tools for Visual Studio. Let's go. Alright, so let's install some tools. The first thing that we're going to want to install to get the Visual Studio tools for Azure Functions to work is the Azure SDK. That's 2.9.6 as of this recording. You'll just save that and run it, and it's going to use the web platform installer to install the Azure SDK. It's going to take a little bit of time, so grab some coffee, sit back after you've confirmed all of the prompts, and we'll speed this up for the purpose of the video and come back when it's done. Cool, now that we have the Azure SDK, we can download and install the Visual Studio tools for Azure Functions, save it, give it a run, accept the terms, sign away your life, whatever it is that they're asking us to do there, and we'll come back after it's done installing to check out the Visual Studio templates for Azure Functions. Okay. Now that we have everything installed, let's head into Visual Studio and go into the new project window. You'll see that there's a cloud section and an Azure Functions preview template. We'll name our application Hello from Functions and chuck it into a directory. And when the project spins up, you'll see that there's a project called Hello from Functions. You can right click on that and we'll go to Add New Azure Function. Now, all of the templates that you'd expect to see, all the different trigger types are here. We'll pick C# to make sure we're headed the right direction, and we're going to use an HTTP trigger. This will give us a URL that we can do a GET request to trigger our function to run. And I'm going to call this the hello trigger, because this is going to run some code that takes in our name and says hello to us. We did this from the portal in a previous video that you can check out in the card that's appearing right now in the top right of the window. We see we have the same function.json we had over there, a request on the inbound and a response for the outbound. A project.json file where we can specify any .NET dependencies that we want to have run for our function. For instance, say we wanted to parse some JSON, we could just add json.net right here to this file. But we don't need that for the purposes of this video, so we'll get rid of that. And we'll head over to the run.csx, which is the file that specifies our Hello World application. And you can see here, as I said, it just takes in a name in the request and it returns hello name, or it asks for the name to be passed in if we haven't done that. And that's what Hello World looks like for a C# Azure function. Let's give this a run so we can see what happens in the debugger. The first time that you run this, you'll be asked to install the Azure Functions CLI tools. Just go ahead and hit yes. This won't take too long to install the CLI tools, which are required to run functions projects. Once that's done, the CLI will launch. There'll be some nice ASCII art, and then the function server will be running. You might get asked for some permissions. Go ahead and click yes on that. And you'll see that the function application is running at localhost port 7071. /API/hello trigger will be our hello trigger that we just wrote. If we head to the browser and paste that in, we'll get the error message for not passing in a name. And if we pass that name in on the query string, we will see hello Brent, which is what we expect from this application. Now heading back into Visual Studio, I did want to show you that you can set breakpoints in the debugger. So this really helps when you're testing out your function app to see how it's working, make sure everything's good to go. So if we run that again, that request again, you'll see we get the IntelliSense that we'd expect. We have the values in the debugger. And that's really all there is to it, to using the functions tools inside of Visual Studio. Everybody likes to have choice of tools, and now that you know how to use Azure Functions from both the web portal and Visual Studio, you can pick how you want to go serverless with your C#. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to Twilio so you know when future videos come out, and check out some of these other videos to find out how Twilio works. Until next time, I'm out of here.